Brown thermos things for the tea. Yeah.
Yes, yes. No, I'm not. But I'm going to England. Right? Well, yeah, I've been going all my life.
What's wrong? They're four.
One of those, like, run it out. You want to do an order of our hand-cut fries to that, too? Oh, yeah, sure. Cool. Anything for you, sir? What's the chili like again? So it's vegetarian, and there's 4 types of beans. We got onions. We got
Well, no one told me about how many people cried. But it's too late to say you're sorry. How would I know? Why should I care? Please don't bother trying to find her. She's not there. Well, let me tell you about the way she looked, the way she had hair, the color of her hair. What could I do? Well, no one told me about her, though they all knew. But it's too late to say you're sorry. How would I know? Why should I care? Please don't bother trying to find her.
Regional coordinator. Okay.
Yes.
And so then you'll know what's going on. Yeah, like 5 different stages. I don't know if it's short, but all of it's just a huge festival. It gets bigger every year.
It's pretty busy. Oh, they won't stay up.
Sarah, I will trust you.
Yogurt girl.
I'm really glad it's an hour. Great.
clear coat. Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
it's a hypoallergenic clear coat, and it's a manufactured coating. So I buy the wire already in rolls with that coating on there. It's a process they bake it on.
Oh, you can buy it already.
Yeah, in the rolls, and then I work off the rolls.
You need to heat it a little bit to
No,
make it malleable?
I don't have to heat it at
Because
all.
copper's
It's
very
very
flexible.
pliable. Yes, yes. And then those pieces over there are bare copper, so they'll patina depending on how much moisture's in the air. Yes, that piece, the heavier gauge, I can only get in a bare copper, not with a finish on it.
No, it's better for you.
It's better to do it now
Yeah.
than in season. But
No, we are in season. We started with
Thank you very much, Rachel. And what do you have in some of these booths out there? Scones and tea?
Scones, freshly baked scones with clotted cream. To entertain yourself, we have brass rubbings, we have a green screen, you can have pictures taken with Doctor Who and various scenes. We have British trains, Stonehenge, a fabulous booth with information about Stonehenge, the Jane Austen Society, lots of lovely fresh hot tea in the cottage, and don't forget to become a member of the House of England.
And where are you from in England?
I'm from Leicester,
Leicester.
close to Stratford-upon-Avon.
Is that near Worcestershire?
Sort of fairly close, but I'm not that saucy. Sorry, I'll be all weekend.
Thank you then, Rachel.
Take it away.
San Diego Shakespeare Society has been asked to perform first, and I'm the president of the Shakespeare Society, and we were founded in the year 2000, so we're 14 years old now. And we have a booth over there with the blue canopy with information for membership and events. And we do Shakespeare all year round. And you're going to hear a sample of what we do and with who. And one of our featured members, advisory board member, is none other than Richard Lederer. He's the Union Tribune columnist every day, and he has an article every Saturday in the local section. And he's going to be first after you get rid of me. So I'd like to open it with a sonnet. Shakespeare, the greatest playwright and poet of all time, is on the 23rd of this month will be 450 years since his birth, and his works are still produced, performed in schools, in neighborhoods, on Broadway and Hollywood, and all over the world. So it's quite an event to celebrate Shakespeare's 450th anniversary. And I'd like to open it up with one of his sonnets, which is one of the favourites, Sonnet 18. Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Thou art more lovely and more temperate. Rough winds do shake the darling buds of May, and summer's lease hath all too short a date. Sometimes too hot the eye of heaven shines, and often is his gold complexion dimmed, and every fair from fair sometimes declines, by nature's changing course untrimmed. But thy eternal summer shall not fade, nor shall death brag thou wanderest in his shade, as though from time to time thou growest. So long as men can breathe, or eyes can see, so long lives this, and this gives life to thee. 14 lines from William Shakespeare says it all. And without further ado, this gorgeous gentleman in a costume designed by the famous Jane Russell Coronado, not the Jane Russell, but one of the ladies of her name who's a dress costumer at Coronado Playhouse designed and made Richard's costume. And without further ado, here is none other than Richard Lederach.
So long lives this, and this gives life to thee. And that, my friends, is the story of the San Diego Shakespeare Society. And in this very park on May 3rd, starting at 1 o'clock, over by the Prado, if you look to the left of the restaurant, and you look out toward the fountains, you're going to see a lot of life given to Willie Wigglestaff. That's another name for William Shakespeare, Wigglestaff. You're going to see 40 acts by junior high and high school students, and we hope you'll join us. That is Saturday, May 3rd, a few weeks from now, and a special year, the 450th birthday of simply the greatest poet, playwright, and word maker who has ever lived. And I hope you know that if you're reading the UT, I'm in every Saturday, and today is on Like and As, but next week will be on Shakespeare's contribution to the language. Ben Jonson wrote of Shakespeare, he's a contemporary, wrote of William Shakespeare, he was not of an age but for all time. And one of the ways is in his themes and in his insight into human character. And I'll just give you a couple, I just gave you one example already of the universality of his themes, basically 1590 till about 1611, and that is this wonderful festival that we have. And this is for this man who entered the earthly stage April 23rd, St. George's Day, 1564. So do the math and you get to 450. And for us in the Shakespeare Society, you know what I'm hoping they'll be saying about us 50 years from now, in the year 2064, we look pretty good for our age. Shakespeare looks pretty good for his age, and coming back, a sense of universality. Marina High School, Moscow, Russia, they garnered second place last year, and they prepared that for our festival, meaning they weren't doing that over there, but they prepared it and they came out second. A little bit about Shakespeare in the language. Well, I'll give you one other example. There was a recent New York Times article on Shakespeare in a Syrian detention camp in Jordan. And amidst this darkness and this bleakness and this hopelessness and these wounds, the children were performing King Lear, and when the two false daughters got up and did their thing, there was booing. When Cordelia rose, there was cheering, and they just said that Shakespeare brings light to an internment camp like that, as another example. 450 years. Our Anglish language, and that is from the Angles, who along with the Saxons and Jutes brought it over from North Germany and southern Scandinavia around AD 449. You have the Old English, the Middle English of Chaucer, and when you read Shakespeare, you witness the invention of modern English. And let me tell you how. First of all, by far the largest vocabulary of his time. 20,138 dictionary headwords. It was not equaled until James Joyce 300 years later. And the amazing thing is that this man used 40% of the known vocabulary of his time, and he had nothing you could call a dictionary at the time. And yet he still used 40%, twice the size of John Milton's vocabulary, 3 times the size of Homer in his great epics. and a man who had no dictionary for it. And part of the reason is that he invented 8.5% of them. More than 1,700 words in Shakespeare did not exist before in print. How do we know? Because that great monument to the language, to the English language, the Oxford English Dictionary, traces every word it can, which is most of them, back to their initial use, sometimes back to King Alfred, 900 and something. And with Shakespeare, we have more than 1,700. With Edmund Spenser, who wrote The Faerie Queen, longest poem in the English language, we have 9, including Braggadocio and Daring Do. And with Shakespeare's contemporaries, such as Philip Sidney and Christopher Marlowe, who was born 3 months before him, 0. He invented English. And yes, words like majestic and assassin, but how about some of these words? Road, R-O-A-D, did not exist before the works of Shakespeare. Go to the OED and take a look at it. Bedroom and bump did not exist before Shakespeare. And he was a man of fire, new words, as he talks about one of his characters in Love's Labour's Lost. I will close with his contribution to our phraseology. And I will be, at least for a while, over at the Shakespeare Society booth. I would love to meet you if you know me from A Way with Words or the UT and you'd like to talk Shakespeare language with me, my pleasure. And again, William Shakespeare, a man of fire, new words. So let me just do a little reading from something you'll see next week. And I think this will bring it across. Oscar Wilde once quipped, "Now we sit through Shakespeare in order to recognize the quotations." Unrivaled in so many other ways in terms of his themes, he is unequaled as a phrase maker. One for all and all for one, and not a creature stirring, not even a mouse, wrote respectively Alexander Dumas and Clement Clark Moore, but Shakespeare said them first. One for all and all for one we gauge in The Rape of Lucrece, and not a mouse stirring in Hamlet. A student who attended a performance of Hamlet said it was just a bunch of cliches, and you can see why. Well, that's all it was, a bunch of cliches, but he made them up. In one play were born, this one play, brevity is the soul of wit, there's the rub, to thine own self be true, it smells to heaven, the very witching time of night, the primrose path, though this be madness, yet there is method in it. Dog will have his day, the apparel oft proclaims the man, neither, although they would say neither, a borrower nor a lender be, frailty thy name is woman, something is rotten in the state of Denmark, more honored in the breach than in the observance. Hoist with his own petard. That means the engineer blown up by his own bomb. That's what a petard is. The lady doth protest too much, to be or not to be. Sweets for the sweets. The be-all and end-all, to the manner born. That's M-A-N-N-E-R, incidentally. And more in sorrow than in anger. Cudgel your brain, and you could append a sample of everyday idiomatic phrases from the other 36 Shakespeare plays. If you knit your brow, and wish that this disquisition would vanish into thin air because it is Greek to you, you are quoting William Shakespeare in all his infinite variety. If you point a finger at strange bedfellows and blinking idiots, you are converting Shakespeare's coinages into currency. If you have seen better days in your salad days, when you wore your heart on your sleeve, that's from Iago, of all people, in Othello, you are, whether you know it or not, going from bard to verse. If you break the ice with one fell swoop, that's Macbeth, one felonious swoop. And as Macduff said, all my pretty ones dead. Lay on, Macduff, and so on. If you never stand on ceremonies, if you play it fast and loose until the crack of doom, if you paint the lily, if you hope for a plague on both houses, if you are more sinned against than sinning, because you have been eaten out of house and home by your own flesh and blood, the most unkindest God of all. If you haven't slept a wink and are breathing your last because you're in a pickle, how did he make that one up? If you carry within you the milk of human kindness and a heart of gold, even though you all that know that all that glisters, not glistens to begin with, is not gold. If you laugh yourself in the stitches at too much of a good thing, if you make a virtue of necessity, if you know that the course of true love never did run smooth, if you won't budge an inch, why? If the truth be told and the truth will out, what the dickens, in a word, right on, be that as it may, the game is up. You are, as luck would have it, standing on that tower of strength of phrase makers, William Shakespeare. So, just to finish up, I want you all to, thank you, applauding the greatest phrase maker ever made, but just to close up, a little review of Shakespeare for you. Again, his 450th coming up on April 23rd, St. George's Day, also his death day, exactly 52 years later. So, if I may, I will sum up a few plays for you. Thanks to Cole Porter, Kiss Me Kate. Here we go. The Goyles today in society go for classical poetry. So to win their hearts, you must quote witties, Aeschylus and Euripides. But the poet of them all, who will start them simply raving, is the poet people call the Bard of Stratford-on-Avon. Boom. Brush up your Shakespeare. Start quoting him now. A couple of hoods are doing this and they have the New York accent. Brush up your Shakespeare and the women you will wow. Just declaim a few lines from Othello and they'll think you're a hell of a fella. If your blonde won't respond when you flatter her, tell her what Tony told Cleopatra with the wife of the British ambassador. Try a crack out of Troilus and Cressida. Brush up your Shakespeare and they'll all kowtow, forsooth, all kowtow. Odds bodkins, all kowtow. Bum bum. Thank you very much. Love to see you at the booth a little later today.
Richard. So I just want to tell you a little bit about some coming attractions. At 2 o'clock we have a demonstration from Chivalry Today. It's going to be medieval sword fighting, knights in armour and all that stuff, and it's really, really fun. So get some food, fish and chips, burgers from God Save the Cuisine, and then scones with clotted cream and jam, and stick around for that. Also, you'll see right over here the penny farthing bikes, so you can talk to them about that. It's really interesting. And now we have a little more Shakespeare. Alex Sandy again.
Thank you, Rachel. And now we have a real cast of characters all ready lined up to come and give you more Shakespeare until 2 o'clock when the Chivalry group take over. So here we are. Let me introduce Christopher R., who is the artistic director and founder of, are you ready for this? The Naked Shakespeare Company.
Welcome, yes. This summer we are going to be producing a couple of free Shakespeare productions over here in the Zorro Gardens area, the notorious Zorro Gardens. And it's going to be all 4 weekends in June, and the first 2 in July we will be performing at different times Henry V and the Comedy of Errors. And they're free to the public. All you have to do is just bring your chairs or your blanket or your picnic and come spend the afternoon with us over in the Zorro Gardens area which is adjacent to the Reuben H. Fleet Space Center and the San Diego Historical Museum. Now, what we would like to do is, for your listening enjoyment, is present a few little tidbits from different plays. And our first performance today will be from Henry V. It will be the prologue, presented by John Palomas. So let's hear it for him.
Thank you very much, Christopher. Is this thing on? I didn't think so. Testing 1, 2. Thank you, Chris. I'd just like to take a moment to introduce my own company. We have the Naked Shakespeare Company, and as the first company to join the Garden Theatre Festival after the appeal for different productions, I took the opportunity to realize a dream that I've had since I lived in London in the 90s, which was to gather together a group of actors that could do Shakespeare anywhere. And this company I finally managed to manifest here in San Diego. It's going to be called the Desperate Shakespeare Company. And the Desperate Shakespeare Company also is going to be spelled S-H-A-X-P-E-R-E, which is the spelling on his wedding license. So if you'd like to look us up on Facebook and like the Desperate Shakespeare Company, we'd very much appreciate it. And we'd also like you to come out on the 7th and 8th and 14th and 15th of June to see Henry V. This production is going to feature as Henry Mr. Jordan Miller, who is late of Lamb's Players Theatre and the Signet Theatre, where last summer he simultaneously performed Algy in The Importance of Being Earnest and Henry Carr in Tom Stoppard's Travesties, which is a virtuosic accomplishment in itself. It's going to be a first-rate cast, and we hope that you'll come on the 7th and 8th and 14th and 15th of June. And with that, I'll give you a little taste of the opening of what will be the Desperate Shakespeare Company's production of Henry V. Oh, for a muse of fire that would ascend the brightest heaven of invention, a kingdom for a stage, princes to act, and monarchs to behold the swelling sea. Then should the warlike Harry, like himself, assume the port of Mars, while at his heels, leashed in like hounds, should fire, sword, and famine crouch for employment. But pardon, gentles all, the flat, unraised spirits that have dared on this unworthy platform to bring forth so great an object. For can this cockpit hold the vasty fields of France? Or may we cram within this wooden knowe the very casks that did affright the air at Agincourt? Oh, pardon. For a crooked figure may in little place attest a million, and let us on your ciphers to this great account on your imaginary forces work. Suppose, within the girdle of these walls are now contained two mighty monarchies, whose high upraised and abutting fronts the perilous narrow ocean parts asunder. Piece out our imperfections with your thoughts. Into 1,000 parts divide one man and make imaginary puissance. When we talk of horses, imagine that you see them printing their proud hoofs in the receiving earth, for 'tis your thoughts that now must deck our kings, jumping o'er times, turning the accomplishments of many years into an hourglass for the which supply. Admit me, chorus to this history, who prologue like, your humble patience pray, gently to hear, kindly to judge our play. Thank you very much.
Bravo. All right, thank you very much, John. That was excellent. Now we're going to travel to a different land, to the forest of Ardennes, and we're going to hear from the character of Jaques. So this is Michael Adler doing a speech you may recognize from As You Like It, Jaques.
Thank you. all the world stage. All the men and women really players. They have their exits and entrances. One man in his time plays many parts, his acts being 7 ages. At first, the infant hurling and puking in the nurse's arms. Then, the whining schoolboy with his satchel and shining morning face, creeping like snail unwillingly to school. Then, the lover, sighing like furnace, with a woeful ballad made to his mistress's eyebrow hair. Then, the soldier, and jealous like the pod, full beard, full of strange oaths, and bearded like the pod. Seeking the bubble reputation, even in the lion's mouth. Then, the justice, in fair round belly with good capon lines, with eyes severe and beard a formal cut, full of wise saws and modern instances. So, he plays his part. The stick stage shifts to the lean and slippered pantaloon, with spectacles on nose and pouch on side. His youthful hose well saved, a world too wide for his shrunk shank, and his big manly voice now turning towards childish treble, pipes and whistles in his sound. The final stage of this strange, eventful history is second childishness and mere oblivion. Sans eyes, sans teeth, sans taste, sans everything.
Now you know it's not from Hamlet.
All right. Thank you very much, Michael. Okay. We're now going to be favored by a sonnet, a sonnet number 29, and Jack Winans is going to present this for us, and then we will follow that up with a rendition of Mark Antony from Julius Caesar. So first of all, sonnet 29 with Jack Winans. Thank you.
This is a sonnet that I believe Shakespeare actually dedicated to Queen Elizabeth. And in one of his later plays, I think it's Timon of Athens, he has a character named Fortune, and he directs the lines directly to Fortune. When in disgrace, with fortune in men's eyes, I all alone beweep my outcast state, and trouble deaf heaven with my bootless cries, and think upon myself, and curse my fate, wishing me like to one, more rich in hope, featured like him with friends possessed, desiring this man's art, or that man's scope, with what I enjoy most, contented least. Yet in these thoughts, myself almost despising, happily I think on thee, then like to the lark at break of day arising, from sullen earth sings hymns at heaven's gate, for thy sweet love remembered such wealth brings, that then I scorn to change my state with kings.
Now we would like to favor you with a rendition or a selection from Julius Caesar of Mark Antony.
This is one of the classic monologues of all time. Mark Antony is alone with Caesar's body for the first time after he has been schmoozing with the conspirators. And in a way, it is an apology to Caesar. Oh, pardon me, thou bleeding piece of earth, that I am meek and gentle with these butchers. Thou art the ruins of the noblest man that ever lived in the tide of times. Woe to the hand that shed thy costly blood. For thy wounds now do I prophesy, which like dumb mouths do ope their ruby lips, to beg the voice and utterance of my tongue. A curse shall light upon the limbs of men. Domestic fury and fierce civil strife shall cumber all the parts of Italy. Blood and destruction shall be so in use, and dreadful objects so familiar that mothers shall but smile when they behold their infants quartered with the hands of war. All pity choked with fell deeds, and Caesar's spirit ranging for revenge, with Ate by his side, comes hot from hell within these confines, and with a monarch's voice cry havoc! And let slip the dogs of war, that this foul deed may smell above the earth, with carrion men groaning for burial.
Compressor lumber kicked on and it really
all right, thank you, Jack. Yes. Okay. Well, now we're gonna slip into a little Henry IV Part 2, and this is a character that is very elusive, but very, very pronounced in what he has to say. This is the character of Rumor from Henry IV Part 2, as portrayed by Michael Turner Ortega. Thank you.
Open your ears. For which of you will stop? Try it over again. Open your ears. For which of you will stop the vent of hearing when loud rumor speaks? I, from the orient to the drooping west, making the wind of my post horse still unfold, the axe commenced on this ball of earth. Upon my tongue's continual slanders ride, the which in every language I pronounce, stuffing the ears of men with false reports. I speak of peace, while covert enmity, under the smile of safety, wounds the world. And who but rumor, who but only I, make fearful musters and prepared defense? Whilst the big year, swollen with some other griefs, is thought with child by the stern tyrant war. And no such matter, rumor is a pipe blown by surmises, jealousies, conjectures, and of so easy, so plain a stop, that the blunt monster with uncounted heads, the still discordant, wavering multitudes, can play upon it. But what mean I thus? my well-known body to anatomize among my household. Why is rumor here? I run before King Harry's victory, who in a bloody field by Shrewsbury has beaten down young Hotspur and his troops, quenching the flame of bold rebellion, even with the rebels' blood. But what mean I to speak so true at first? My office is to noise abroad that Harry Monmouth fell under the wrath of noble Hotspur's sword. And the king, before the Douglas rage, stopped his anointed head as low as death. This have I rumored through the peasant towns between the royal fields of Shrewsbury and this worm-eaten hold of Ragged Stone, where Hotspur's father, old Northumberland, lies crafty sick.
Hello, love.
The posts come tiring on, and not a man of them that brings other news than they have learned from me, from rumors' tongues. They bring smooth comforts false, worse than true wrongs. Thank you.
What time is it supposed to begin?
Okay, well, thank you. Okay, now we're going to go to A Midsummer Night's Dream. Since it's springtime now, let's have a little word from the Queen of the Fairies, Titania. This is Linda Todd performing Titania from A Midsummer Night's Dream.
Good afternoon. Titania is welcoming home her husband who's been wandering, and she's just taken upon her another child, and she's a little bit on the angry side with Oberon. This is Titania talking to Oberon. These are the forgeries of jealousy, and never since middle summer spring met we on hill, dale, forest or mead, by paved fountain or rushy brook, or the beached margins of the sea, to dance our ringlets to the whistling wind. But with thy brawls, thou hast disturbed our sport. The spring, the summer, the childing autumn, the angry winter, changed their wonted liveries, and the maize whirled by their increases. Now knows not which is which, and it's these same progenies of evil that come from our debate, from our dissension. We are the parents and originals. Set your heart at rest. The fairyland buys not the child of me. His mother was a votress in my order, and in the spiced Indian air by night, full often has she gossiped by my side. But she, being mortal, of that child did die, and for her sake do I rear up her boy. And for her sake I will not part with him.
Okay, thank you, Linda. Okay, now we're going to the front of the Trojan War, to Troilus and Cressida, and we are going to hear from the great general himself, Ulysses. This is Edward Needham doing a rendition of Ulysses from Troilus and Cressida. Thank you.
Time hath, my lord, a wallet at his back, wherein he puts alms for oblivion. great-sized monster of ingratitude. Those scraps are good deeds past, which are devoured as fast as they are made, forgot as soon as done. To have done is to hang, quite out of fashion, like a rusty mail in monumental mockery. Perseverance, dear my lord, keeps honor bright. Take the instant way, for honor travels in a strait so narrow where one but goes abreast. Keep then the path, for emulation hath 1,000 sons that one by one pursue. And if you give way or hedge aside from the direct forthright, like to an entered tide, they all rush by and leave you hindmost. Or like a gallant steed fallen in first rank, lie there for pavement to the abject rear, o'errun and trampled on. And what they do in present, though less than yours in past, must o'ertop yours. For time is like a fashionable host that slightly shakes the parting guest by the hand, and with arms outstretched as he would fly, grasp in the comer, welcome ever smiles, and farewell goes outside. Oh, let not virtue seek remuneration for the thing it was, for beauty, wit, high birth, vigor of bone, desert and service, love, friendship, charity, are subjects all to envious and calumniating time. One touch of nature makes the whole world kin, that all with one consent praise newborn gods, and give to dust that is a little guilt more laud than guilt that's o'erdusted. The present eye praises the present object. Then marvel not that all the Greeks, marvel not, thou great and complete man, that all the Greeks now begin to worship Ajax, since things in motion sooner catch the eye than what not stirs. The cry went once on thee, and still it might, and yet it may again, if thou wouldst not entomb thyself alive, and case thy reputation in thy tent, whose glorious deeds in but these fields of late have made emulous mission mongst the gods themselves, and drave great Mars to faction.
Okay, let's go back. Let's go back to A Midsummer Night's Dream now. This is Michael Adler returning with a performance of Nick Bottom, the Weaver. After he, if you remember in the story, he was turned into an ass, and towards the end of the story, he has been turned back into the original human person that he was, and so this is when he wakes up. So here's Michael Adler as Nick Bottom.
Thank you. So Nick Bottom is just waking up. The enchantment has been removed, so he is now unenchanted, he is disenchanted, he is just waking up and he's on a bench, and he's just coming back to life again, like we would when we wake up in the morning. When my cue comes, call me and I will answer. My next is most Pierre Fermus, most fair Pyramus. Peter Quince? Oh! Flute? The bellows maker? Snap the tinker! Startling! Cause my life, Stonehenge left me asleep. I have had a most rare vision. I have had a dream, possibly with a man to know what dream it was. Man is but an ass if he go about expound this dream. Methought I was... No man can say what methought I was. Methought I had... Man is but a patched fool if he offer what methought I had. The eye of man hath not heard, his ears hath not seen, his hand unable to taste, his tongue will conceive, or his heart to report what my dream was. I will get Peter Quince to write a ballet of this dream. It shall be called Bottom's Dream, because this dream hath no bottom. And I shall sing it in the latter half of a play before the Duke. By then, sir, to make it all the more gracious, I will sing it at her death.
Hello. Hi. I've been asked to remind you about the Student Shakespeare Festival, which is coming up Saturday, May 3rd. The park is going to be filled with Shakespearean action. You all should make sure you come to that. It's gonna, the opening ceremonies are gonna begin at 12:30 at the Organ Pavilion, and it's going to continue all the way through till 4 o'clock with Shakespeare. Shakespeare stages lining the Prado, which is that street that runs from the Organ Pavilion, the plaza in front of the Organ Pavilion, the Plaza de Panama, all the way to the large fountain over by the Reuben H. Fete Space Center. So plan on making an afternoon of it. Okay, we've got a treat here coming up from Romeo and Juliet. This is Linda Todd. She's coming back to do a performance of The Nurse from Romeo and Juliet. So let's hear it for Linda.
Oh, sure, Mr. Fox. Come get him.
Nurse was she was the one that took care of Juliet when she was a child. And this particular scene, her mother, Juliet's mother, wants to know how old Juliet is.
So, all I'm doing now is setting up the sun.
Faith, I can tell her age unto her year. I'll give 14 of my teeth. But to my teen be it spoken, I have but 4. Even of odd, come Lammas Eve at night, shall she be 14. Oh, Susan and she, oh, God rest all Christian souls, were of an age. Well, Susan is with God. She was too good for me. But, as I said, on Lammas Eve at night shall she be 14.
Hello. It was good news.
Come Lammas Eve at night shall she be 14. Oh, I remember well. To since the earthquake now 11 years since she was weak, I never shall forget it. For all the days of the year upon that day, for I had then laid wormwood to my dug, sitting in the sun under the dove house wall. Oh, my lord, and you were in Mantua. Nay, I do bear a brain. But as I said, when it did taste the wormwood on the nipple of my dug, and felt the bitter, oh, pretty fool, to see it tacky and fall out of the dug. Shake, quoth the dove house, well, 'twas no need, I trow, to bid me trudge. And since that time it is 11 years. for then she could run and waddle all about. For even the day before she broke her brow, and then my husband, oh, God be with his soul. He was a merry man. Well, he took up the child. Yea, quoth he, dost thou fall upon thy face? Thou wilt fall backwards if thou hast more wit. Wilt thou not, Jule? And by my holiday, the pretty wretch left crying and said, I. To see now how a jest shall come about, I warned I should live 1,000 years, I should forget it. Wilt thou not, Jule, quoth he? And pretty wretch left crying and said, I. Oh, I know, madam, but I can but choose to laugh, to see how she would just leave crying and say, I. And yet I warned it had upon its brow a bump as big as a young cockerel's stone, a perilous knock, and it cried bitterly. But yea, quoth my husband, dost thou fall upon thy face? Thou wilt fall backwards when thou comest of age. Wilt thou not, Jule? And it stinted and said, I. Thank you.
Hey, that's a great grandmother, too.
Okay, thank you, Linda. Okay, we have another quick treat here from As You Like It. This is Diane Hardy doing the epilogue from As You Like It as Rosalind. Diane Hardy.
Hello. Hello. It's not the fashion to see the lady, the epilogue. But it's no more unhandsome than to see the Lord, the prologue. If it be true that good wine needs no bush, 'tis true that a good play needs no epilogue. Yet to good wine they do use good bushes, and good plays prove the better by the help of a good epilogue. What a case am I in then, that I'm neither a good epilogue or cannot insinuate with you in behalf of a good play? I'm not furnished like a beggar, therefore to beg will not become me. My way is to conjure you, and I'll begin with the women. I charge you, O women, for the love you bear to men, to like as much of this play as please you. And I charge you, O men, for the love you bear to women, as I perceive by your simpering, none of you hates them, that between you and the women, the play may please. If I were a woman, I would kiss as many of you as had beards that pleased me, complexions that liked me, and breasts that I defied not. And I am sure as many as have good beards or good faces or sweet breaths will, for my kind offer, when I make curtsy, bid me farewell.
Well, thank you all. You see that Shakespeare is alive and well in our society, our Shakespeare Society. Again, May 3rd is the big day, but please tell your friends on the 21st, we will be at Oasis. We can get this up here. Oasis at Mission Valley in the morning, Rancho Santa Fe Senior Center in the afternoon, and the main library the night. If you're from Coronado, I'll also be with the troupe on the 23rd. Just want to close with a toast to all of you. Why do we call it a toast? It goes back to the days of Elizabeth I and William Shakespeare. And in those days, people would dip slices of spiced toast into their tankards of ale and glasses of Falstavian sack to improve the flavor and remove the impurities. And you're all coming out this afternoon supporting Shakespeare. I saw a lot of children here, wonderful. Just improves the flavor of our lives and diminishes the impurities. So I'll just say, here is champagne to our real friends. Here is real pain to our sham friends. Thank you for being real friends of the greatest playwright, poet, and word maker who ever existed. And thank you, House of England, for having me.
Hello. I just want to say thank you to the Shakespeare Society. That was fantastic. Also, thank you to everybody for coming here today. I hope you're all having a very good time. We're going to continue with the festivities tomorrow. So if you don't have plans to come here, change them and make sure you do, because we're going to have the San Diego Costume Guild, as well as the Baja Bergs, which is the San Diego Beatles tribute band. We're going to have Save the Cuisine back here with their fantastic food, and we're going to have all these booths as well. Make sure you do visit the Shakespeare booth, and they can tell you more about their upcoming events. And now we're going to have the Chivalry educational group. There they are. Take a bow, gentlemen, and they're going to talk about sword combat. Is there anything else you'd like to add before you get started? Okay.
For the next hour or so, we're going to have a little demonstration of one of the things that we teach and bring to various educational groups, schools, libraries, camps, groups like this here at the House of England today. We're going to put on a demonstration of authentic medieval sword combat. Now, this may be a little different than you have seen if you've been to a Renaissance fair or medieval times dinner show, where you see lots of swords clanging and knights leaping about and exciting stage combat. This is a style of dueling that we know about from manuals that were written in the 14th and 15th centuries, literally how-to books on how knights and men-at-arms trained to fight both in and out of armor with swords and other weapons including poleaxes, daggers, lances, on horseback and on foot. Even wrestling in armor was one of the techniques that they trained with. And we're going to put on for you a demonstration that covers several of those types of skills that a knight or a gentleman of the time period would have practiced in, and would have been quite an expert, having begun training probably somewhere between age 7 and 10, and trained up through the age of 16 to 21, somewhere around there, before they attained the rank of knighthood. So these were definitely the trained and elite martial artists of their time. As I said, this training covered both fighting in and out of armor. We often think of knights wearing full armor, like you see our gentlemen out here, David and Kyle, wearing representative harness, which is the correct word for a suit of armor, correct harness from the 14th century. But if a knight has to say, wait, let me put on my armor before he can fight, he's not really much of a soldier. So learning to fight without armor, with swords and various weapons, was also an important skill. So we're going to begin with a demonstration of unarmored combat between Quinn and Patrick. Again, I emphasize, these are sword fighting techniques that are drawn from manuals of the time. Manuals that said specifically that knights were expected to train to use their skills in earnest and in play. So they recognized, as we should recognize, that sword fighting was a skill that you could use in earnest, in battle, in duels, when things were deadly serious, but also in play, in games and sports, when the intent was a friendly one and you were not intending to hurt or kill your partner. So, with that in mind, these Patrick and Quinn will be demonstrating with a sword called the long sword. A 4-foot long sword intended to be used in 2 hands. The swords that they are using are blunt or rebated or foiled, which is where we get the word foil for a blunt sword. However, that does not mean that they're not dangerous. So these absolutely can be used as lethal weapons if this is done with a lack of control and precision. But what you're going to see here is a nice demonstration of good controlled technique as they would have used with a long sword in the 14th century. As we go along, I want you all to look at what's going on here with a little bit of a critical eye, because in a contest or a deed of arms like this, since the goal was not to hurt or injure your partner, the winner would often be chosen by the acclaim of a panel of judges, lords and ladies, who would be assembled to watch the deed of arms and to select which of the combatants had demonstrated both a greater sense of expertise, of skill with their weapons, but also a greater sense of chivalry and honor. Which one was more courageous? Which one had more prowess? Which one was more respectful of their opponent during the fight? So that is what I'm going to ask at the end of the fight for a round of applause or a show of hands as to which you would select as the winner in this engagement. I will also say that as we move along in this, you're going to see a variety of techniques that obviously are very different from what you may have seen in sword fighting shows. I guarantee you, the stranger the technique looks, the more realistic it is. And we'll explain that a little bit maybe after the fight as we go along. So with that, let's have Patrick and Quinn demonstrating the art of unarmored combat with the longsword. One hit on Patrick. So in this case, we're scoring by, nice thrust there by Quinn. Nice placement of the point right into Patrick. 2 strikes on Patrick. We're going to be fighting to 3 counted blows, which was a typical way that they would have scored and a deed of arms like this. 1 strike on Quinn, 2 strikes on Patrick. You'll notice neither of the fighters are swinging their swords around wildly. And generally, if someone is caught out of position by swinging their sword around, their opponent is going to be quick to take advantage of that. So this is very different from a sword fighting match where swords are clanging and sparks are flying. That definitely was not the intent in this sort of encounter with an unarmored opponent. All you need to have is a very light strike, and that sword will do its job very nicely. 3 strikes on Patrick. 1 strike on Quinn. That brings our encounter. 2 strikes on Quinn. 2 to 3 brings our encounter to a close. So let's show a nice round of applause for who would judge Patrick the most skillful. Round of applause for Patrick. Raise your hand. Who's going to cast their vote for Patrick? Who's going to cast their vote for Quinn? Sounds like our victor in this match would be Quinn. Very nice. Round of applause for both of our fighters there. So in this case, obviously the fighter that scored 3 blows, you obviously judged them to be the most skillful. But that wasn't always the case. In a deed of arms, it was quite often the fighter who lost the match. It was not uncommon for them to be judged the most skillful. Basically, it was an acknowledgement that the person who took the greatest risks in the fight might be the one that had a greater sense of courage, or might simply have been the more skillful to strike 1 skillful blow rather than 3 easy blows. So getting in, striking a skillful 1 strike sometimes is a greater show of skill than winning the match by 3 counted blows. In our second encounter, we have April, who will be meeting Kate. Again, using the long swords. In this case, they're using synthetic long swords made so that we can practice safely. These are the swords that we use in our practice and training sessions. So with this, we'll begin our encounter between April and Kate. Double strike, one hit on each fighter. Nice attempt at winding by Kate. A good example of how a sword is really used in this kind of engagement. Winding around, looking for an opportunity to put her point on target. Very nice use of the sword there. Very nice. One hit on each there. 2 and 2. 2 strikes on Kate. 1 strike on April.
It's okay with me. Let's play. Keep at it.
Another aspect of this style of sword fighting, unlike modern fencing where the tip is the main part of the weapon, in this case, if our fighter's getting close, the pommel, the back end of the sword, can be used to deliver blunt impact on target. So watch them as they get in close. You'll notice them start to reverse their swords, looking for a strike with the pommel. Second strike on April. Brings us to 2 and 2. Nice attempt to grapple by Kate. Give her a round of applause. That is absolutely a good show of skill to get in close. But she didn't quite get in grappling position, and April was able to pommel to the head. 3 strikes on Kate, 2 on April, which brings this encounter to a close. Let's have a show of applause. Who would show April in green here? April as our most skillful fighter. How about Kate? Who's voting for Kate as our most skillful fighter? Sounds like April is going to take the match here. Nice round of applause for both of our fighters, April and Kate. Well done. So again, a nice demonstration there by our 4 fighters with use of the longsword in unarmored combat. And again, gentlemen, or even ladies, for we do see illustrations of ladies training to use weapons in the fighting manuals occasionally. It was a fairly rare thing, but they did certainly train on occasion with the weapons like the longsword. So in this case, a real nice demonstration of the skills of a longsword in unarmored combat. And as we said, it doesn't take much to do injury with a longsword when your opponent is only wearing a thick shirt. However, now we're going to see a demonstration of that same weapon used in armored combat against an armored knight. Now, unlike what you may have seen in movies or fighting demonstrations, armor does its job very well, and the longsword in particular is not a very effective weapon at cutting or cleaving through armor. So Kyle can use a metal longsword against his opponent's armor all day long. That sword is never going to cut through my armor, no matter how hard he hits. All he's going to do is scratch it up and make my squires mad because they have to polish it at the end of the day. So striking a knight's armor, even striking it really hard, is not going to cut through the armor. It's mostly likely to break the sword. So, in this case, David and Kyle are going to show us the real art of fighting in armor, which is this: using the sword in a manner to be able to get to a lightly armored target. The armpits, behind the elbow, into the hand in the back of the gauntlet, the neck or the eyes, behind the knee. You'll notice Kyle is also holding that sword in a position called the half sword, the armed hand or the half sword, being able to use it much more like a short spear than a sword. And generally when you're fighting in armor, that's the way you would use a sword. You might even reverse it in a technique called the Mortschlag, the death stroke, and smash your opponent in the head, turning your sword essentially into a big hammer. Understanding that we're going to be using techniques that are realistically intended to do damage to a man in armor, we can't use steel swords, or the result is going to be somebody is going to get really hurt, or we're not doing it right. So in this case, we're going to do exactly the same thing that they did in the Middle Ages in a friendly tournament. We're going to swap out our steel swords for what they called wasters. Swords that are intended to be relatively safe in armored combat. In the Middle Ages, they would have been made out of wood or often out of dried whalebone, a tough and flexible substance. In this case, ours are synthetic, made out of hard plastic. And I say that they are relatively safe in combat. Relatively, because we are still essentially hitting each other with baseball bats. And occasionally, someone does come away from one of these a little bit bloody at the end of the encounter. However, we're going to hope that that doesn't happen, as Kyle and David show us the techniques and skills of knights in armor fighting with the longsword. Just as with our previous combat, we're going to run this to 3 counted blows. But in this case, our fighters are going to score those blows in a realistic manner, which means that simply a strike by the sword blade to a piece of armor, like the cuirass, the breastplate, or the helmet, they're not going to count that, because that wouldn't really be an effective attack with the sword. What they are going to count is anytime they can get the point of the sword into a vulnerable target, if they can disarm one another, if one of them takes a sword away from the other, or if one of them grapples the other to the ground. Putting an opponent on the ground is a very good way to be able to find a target like the eye slots of the helmet or a lightly armored part of the body to put the point of your sword and drive it home. Okay? So any of those techniques, a thrust with the sword, the Mortschlag, disarming, grappling to the ground, and forcing your opponent to yield will count as a blow or a point. Okay? I point out again, this is not scripted combat. These guys are working hard. They're carrying about 60 pounds of armor. There's no good guy or bad guy. There's no black knight out here. We're not encouraging anybody to boo or to jeer. But if you see something you like out here, please cheer for these guys. Hold. One blow on David for that. You'll notice a very nice takedown there by Kyle. Well done. Definitely deserving of some applause. David's got his wits about him again, and we will continue.
Nice thrust from David into Kyle's throat.
Real sword, yeah.
Disarm tried, didn't quite work. Oh, pommel, but not right into the helm. Trying for disarm. Oh, missed that thrust. Oh. Got him in the side of the neck where there's minimal armor, which is why he counted it.
Ready? Yeah.
Thrust into the side of the neck with a half-sworded position. Victory to Kyle. Now, remembering that the greatest skill isn't necessarily the person who wins, because it depends on what you're trying. How many people think that David showed a lot of skill? How many people think Kyle showed a lot of skill? Very nice. There were some beautiful moves in there, and the other thing I would remind you is those are not small gentlemen, so when they're throwing each other to the ground, they're having to pick up a person who's probably 180 pounds, 160, 80 pounds, plus 60 pounds of armor. So that's 240 pounds they're picking up to throw to the ground. It's a lot of work.
All right, where are we going?
Are you going to go? The The next fight is going to be between Scott and Kyle with poleaxe. Now the poleaxe, Patrick, would you show me the poleaxe? The poleaxe was a very favored weapon style, especially in tournament combat, because it was so versatile. So here is a replica poleaxe that Patrick's holding for us. It's got a hammer, which you can use to bend the armor. If you bend up the guy's armor around his knees, he doesn't walk very well. Makes him very vulnerable. It's got what's called a raven's beak, which can punch through. It's got a thrusting tip, which can also punch through. And the back has a steel cap, which, believe me, getting hit with all that mass in a steel cap will stun anyone. If you watch how they're fighting, you'll notice that a lot of the positions are actually very similar between the sword work and the poleaxe. They taught a system of fighting that could be used with dagger, two-handed sword, and poleaxe. So you'll see, if you think about it, the positions are a lot the same. Gentlemen, stand you ready. Notice that Scott has the cue forward. And they're reversing their weapons. You need to be able to use both sides of the weapon rapidly. Smashed him in the head with the hammer. Even through a helmet, that'll stop you in your tracks. Oh, good strike to the neck. That suddenly got very loud. Where am I? That's a very good strike to the neck from Kyle onto Scott. Thrust by Kyle into Scott's neck. The other thing to notice is the shoes that they are fighting in are just like mine. They have no heel and no tread. So it's a little slick out there. Particularly with the pine needles. Like that. Nicely done. Now, I don't know if you caught all of that, but there were about 4 times in that particular wrestling encounter where the advantage passed to the other person. Kyle started it, Scott got the advantage, Kyle started him down, Scott spun him down, then Kyle kept the roll going and ended up on top. At which point, by then, I suspect Scott decided that he didn't have enough energy left to do anything else. And having Kyle, who is taller and heavier and in 60 pounds armor too, sitting on your chest, might have had something to do with him not being able to do anything else. And now they're going to both stand here for a moment and pant.
It's hard work. I remember.
Okay, so thinking about all that went on, and so we're going to ask you to decide who showed the most skill in all of that. Now, personally, I think this is going to be a little bit of a difficult decision, but so we're going to ask about Scott first. He's the one that still has the helmet on. Thank you very much. And how many people thought that Scott showed a lot of skill or the highest skill in that encounter? Thank you. How many people thought Kyle showed a lot of skill or the highest skill? Ooh, I'm thinking a tie. Can't have a tie. Gonna have to do it again. That's called a tiebreaker.
Again, right? Again, right?
Oh, no, you gotta fight again. If it's gonna be a tie. You want... Okay, so since they managed to tie with the pole axes, they're gonna go at it with long swords this time. The other thing you might think about is, and this is even truer for Scott's faceplate. Look at that faceplate. There's not a lot of holes in it. So there's a lot of carbon dioxide that builds up really fast inside that faceplate. It makes it very hard to breathe.
Not to mention, you also can't see.
Yeah, seeing is a challenge.
View about this big. Can't see anything below here. Right, your official partial, I'm just keeping that.
Ready, gentlemen?
Yeah, ready? Yeah, ready? Yeah.
Oh, nice into the palm of the hand.
So that is exactly why we have to use the fake sword. Even with a blunted steel sword, that would be a crippling injury.
Yeah, that would have been an ambulance ride, as that metal sword pierced straight through that hand. There's a reason we use synthetics and not steel at this level. That was a Mortschlag. Did you notice that hammer shot? No! I think that clearly went to Kyle on that point. Little bit of skating on the pine needles as well.
Yeah. Ready? Yeah.
A thrust to Kyle's face and a smash into Scott's leg. Oh, strike to the leg, remember? That was armor, doesn't count. Armor would have stopped it. That's why they wore that armor. I don't know if you noticed, but Scott just tried to use his sword to grab behind Kyle's knee. That was what that little maneuver was about. Not good enough. Attempt to disarm didn't quite work. Again, hit to the chest, doesn't matter. So Scott managed to get a Mortschlag, which meant he used the blade of the sword to hit Kyle in the face with the quillions, which is a valid blow. It'll smash it up. So right now they're tied up 2-2. And Scott's trying to breathe, I can tell. Right to the helmet, doesn't matter. Oh, thrust to the armpit. Lovely. Victory to Scott, but I have a feeling that Scott now needs to take off his helmet and actually breathe. I would like to say thank you very, very much to the two kind people who donated the water to these gentlemen, because believe me, they need it. Really appreciate that. Thank you very much. It's appreciated, I can tell you. Okay, I'm pretty sure the next fight after Kyle catches his breath is going to be between Kyle and David. Okay, we're going to do so we're going to do a little more unarmored. Looks to me like Kate and Patrick are going to start it out, and then Quinn and I can go for a bout.
Okay, so there's the tiebreaker. You guys go decide.
That's right. Okay, so here's the question. Considering what you just saw, this time for the sword fight, who thinks that tall guy Kyle, showed the most skill? Who thinks Scott showed the most skill? Oh, I think Scott won that one this time. But I'll pretty much tell you that right now Scott's probably also the tiredest.
As we point out, you'll notice, again, unlike what you may often see at a Renaissance fair or dinner show, there's no smack talking or calling names. We recognize the danger of what we are doing out here. Even with these blunt weapons or simulated weapons, if somebody takes the field in anger, it's definitely going to go badly. We have to be friends when we start these encounters and friends at the end. We have to trust and respect each other a great deal in order to do this realistically but safely. So that's why you'll often notice, especially during the armored sword fight, all of our fighters checking to make sure, you okay? Did you fall down too hard that last time? Did I hit you too hard? Making sure that there's no injuries as we're going along. This is not a place for animosity or grudge matches. Okay, I'm gonna get off the field. Let these two guys do some fighting. In this encounter, as you're watching this, interesting to recognize that Patrick in the green has studied primarily in the Italian style, also called fiore, after the first master of Italian longsword. Kate has studied primarily in the German style, also known as Lichtenauer style, after the first German master. So we're seeing a little bit of an encounter between two distinct but very similar in their result kind of style with the longsword, German and Italian. One strike on Kate. Nice thrust in after winding on the sword. Oh, another nice thrust right there. Nice little outward wind by Patrick. Put his point right on time. Nicely done. Patrick, recognizing that he had been bested there, again, stopped the action and recognized that Kate had him definitely at a point of advantage even before she put her point on target. So nicely done. That too is very important demonstration of another factor that we talked about just briefly, which is the sense of honor that our fighters have to come to the field with. You'll see them often, just as Patrick did there, making sure if they feel a little contact, finding out from their opponent if they thought that was a good strike or an invalid one. In this case, Kate waved it off and said she didn't think it was a good strike as well. But that too is a real sign of honor and chivalry, of trusting your opponent enough to assume that they are going to make the right call and not blow off a valid attack in order to score a point. Our score stands at 2-2. 2 for each of our fighters here.
Is it the same consistency? It's a little bit more to the body.
In each of these cases, what you would be watching for if you're looking for a demonstration of skill is use of the sword in both an offensive and defensive manner. Basically, one movement making a defense and attacking the opponent. Is that 3 and 3, Glenn? Victory to Patrick on that one. Nice round of applause. Let's have another show by applause. Who would choose Patrick in the green as our most skilled fighter in this encounter? And who would choose Kate in the blue hood as our most skilled fighter? I think by a narrow margin, it's going to go to Patrick on this one. As we said earlier, thank you. Very nice big round of applause for both of our fighters. As we said earlier, this sort of encounter, which would be called a deed of arms, a demonstration of skill at arms in front of a panel of lords and ladies, you would be the ones to judge which amongst the fighters would be the most skillful. And that's not necessarily the winner of the match. Somebody who strikes 3 easy blows is not necessarily more skillful than someone who gets in close and strikes 1 more difficult blow. So the most skillful fighter does not necessarily have to be the one who wins the match on the most blows struck. And as lords and ladies who are very familiar with the skills of sword combat, that's the sort of determination that you would be making at a deed of arms by judging the difficulty of the maneuvers that the fighters were doing with their swords. In this case, we have an encounter between Quinn in the red and black and April in the purple. Again, I encourage you all, remember there's no good guy, no bad guy here. Both of our fighters are respectful and trusted friends when they begin this. So we don't boo or jeer for anyone, but if you see something you like out here on the field, please feel free to applaud. We'll let these fighters know you appreciate. Nice wine there, Quinn. Well done. 1 strike on April. Please feel free to applaud and let them know that you appreciate what you're seeing. Although we do our best to engage in these encounters with a sense of honor, respect, and chivalry, it doesn't mean that we're not trying to win. And believe me, winning one of these matches, both in terms of blows struck, nice double strike there.
Shoulder and side. Okay.
2 strikes on April, 1 strike on Quinn.
Ready?
As I said, we are trying very sincerely to win and come out ahead in these encounters. But we recognize that winning without honor is not much of a win.
Cut on the face, 2 each.
2 strikes each. 2 and 2 is where the score stands.
Lay off. Right, so victory in this.
3 strikes on April. Victory to Quinn. Nicely done. Round of applause. And by show of applause, who would choose April in the purple as the most skillful? Who would choose Quinn in the red and black as the most skillful? Again, a close one, but I think that's going to go to April. So victory to April in this encounter. If any of you are interested in learning a little bit more about what we're doing here, we do teach classes in historical sword fighting. We have 4 classes a week, 2 for teens and youth, and 2 for adults. Please come on up and take a flyer if you're interested in learning a little bit more. We also regularly do demonstrations at middle schools, high schools, camps, churches, libraries. So if you're interested in having our knights come out and do a demonstration of armored sword combat, or any of the other displays and presentations of historical life that we do, falconry, catapults, cooking, engineering, we'd love to come to your school or library. Please come on up and take a flyer from us, or check out our website at chivalrytoday.com. our fighters are now at the point where we're having so much fun with this that they really don't want to stop. So, although technically we are just about out of time here, I suspect if you want to hang around and watch, we will fight for pretty much as long as we have an audience here. So, if you have any questions, please raise a hand, or I'd be happy to answer any questions you have about knights, armor, castles, sword fighting, while our fighters continue to put on a demonstration for you. We'll do one more one more unarmored encounter, it sounds like, and then we'll do one more encounter in armor. So feel free to hang out and watch if you like. And I'll leave the marshalling here to April. Yes, sir.
I think they're saying there's been no good blow, so they're going to keep fighting. We have one strike against Quinn. And a strike against Patrick, so one each.
There's something to be said that if you
Good slice to the hands against Quinn.
There's a small oopsie. The chain went down. Look at the alarm sheet here, like like when I sneezed on that thing. I made that windscreen just fit. Alright, I hear you. Well, good on you, lady. He's wearing an elbow cup. Yeah. He's better like, yeah, as much armor as Alright.
Ah, good.
A good thrust into Patrick's neck for 2 each. Attempts at grappling, nothing quite happened. So there are a number of attempts at grappling going on here, but they're not always working out well, though that one definitely did. There'll be a third strike against Patrick there. You notice when in armor we're attempting to grapple, we almost always close all the way and finish the grapple. It's a lot more dangerous to do a grappling maneuver without armor on, because if you have to get lipped by the sword, it'll actually hurt you. So we have Quinn takes the victory on blow struck.
Wake up in the morning.
Alright, so let's get our rounds of applause now. Who feels that Quinn showed the most skill in this fight?
This morning I shaved it back into its
And who felt that Patrick showed the most skill in this fight?
So this is,
I think fair margin, that's going to go to Quinn there, probably for that excellent takedown at the end. Very nice over the back throw. David and I are going to step back in to do another armored fight. With swords or with poleaxes? What do you think, David?
What'd you say?
David, what do you think? Swords or poleaxes?
Go, you do it now. I just saved this morning. You rarely see me even go like this. I had it going, right? Almost. I mean, it's not as wide. I had like a week of training. You're technically supposed to. Yeah, so I had a good 10 days row. I believe April's not a press release. Go big or go home. Well, that was a good demo. I haven't seen your demo step up the game, man.
Yeah.
It's tight.
We've just gotten to the point, because it used to be pretty much to be safe. Once you got someone solidly on the ground, just yield.
So one of the interesting things about wearing helms or even fencing masks is it definitely changes your hearing. So sometimes it's a little tricky to know whether something got said or what got said, or even to hear some of the things we're used to hearing. It's very different. Yes.
I was like, I'm so tired. He'll never do it. He's been doing that for, he's done the same thing. He was like, you're 23 in the day. I thought you might have it here.
And if you're out on a team fight, if you have teams fighting on a big field, trying to make yourself heard to the other people on your team is really tricky. So this time, for this fight, we've got David and Kyle. They're fighting with long swords.
Yeah, about 600.
They're light and they're strong. Yeah. How much they weigh each?
If that.
There's the half swording.
And if that feels
Thrust, I think, in David's throat. David. So David is saying, even though he got this pommel into Kyle's throat, he does not feel he had enough force to do any good. So, as in the spirit of competition, he's calling it not a good shot. Nice thrust into Kyle's armpit. Very valid target.
I'm hungry in here. Yours.
No, I worked with them because...
double check on the armor, something's not moving correctly.
They'll let me use, middle of the day.
If the coif gets caught on the shoulder armor, it's very distracting. Oh, good catch! Wow.
So, it's a nice little symbiotic relationship.
So I don't know if you noticed, but Kyle very successfully spun, picked up the back of David's knee cop with the quillions of his sword, which is a very classic maneuver and very hard to get. They still struggled until Kyle managed to slam him in the throat with the quillions. Ooh, nice block, nice block. Yeah. Oh!
Actually, the real concern is that somebody gets a little twisted.
David says that was just a grunt because Kyle and all that armor is in fact a fair amount of weight to slam on top of you on the ground.
We're usually pretty good at recognizing
Kyle's victory! We lost track!
And they just pause for a second and make sure, because like one time I got somehow my poleaxe over this arm, under my neck, around this
as
arm.
David catches his breath,
and Kyle's on top of me.
We are going to say, so how many people think that David showed the highest skill in that particular encounter as he's catching his breath? How many people showed Kyle with the feathers? Here. I think that one goes slightly to Kyle in this case. Very nicely fought, both of you. I have a feeling they're going to take hot showers and then sleep well tonight. That's a whole lot of work, and I suspect hitting the ground like that, there might be a few bruises showing up tomorrow.
At least, at the very least, it doesn't hurt right now. I'll tell you in an hour.
We were like, oh my god, that was just, oh my god, 280 pounds of squeeze. One more?
60% of each.
What are we doing?
One more round of fight.
So we're going to have one more unarmored fight because we like to fight, and it's really fun. So Quinn and Kate are going to do another fight with
the unarmored swords.
One other thing, once we are done here, any of you with young knights or ladies who would like to try on a piece of armor, please come on over to the courtyard of the House of England. We have some helmets and some chainmail that we would love to let you handle and try on. So after this fight, if you'd like to try on a little armor, please join us over in the courtyard. Young, as April points out to me, that is, if you would like to try on armor, if you are young or young at heart, you're welcome to come over and try on a little armor. Though she is little, she be but fierce.
Put on armor just for you. You may not be young.
All right, our final encounter here is between Quinn in the red and black and Kate wearing the blue hood. Nice thrust there on Kate's elbow. Again, a great example of exactly how a longsword should be used. Had his point right on target and just kind of let the sword do the work for him. Oh, nice. Good takedown by Kate. Well done. Well done. That Kate's a real bruiser. Oh, and Quinn returns the favor. Nicely done, Quinn. Although Kate stepped on Quinn's foot, I think we're going to score that as a strike on Kate. Three hits on Kate, one on Quinn. Victory to Quinn. Now let's have a round of applause for Kate and Quinn and all of our fighters. Kyle, David, Patrick, April. Once again, we are Chivalry Today, the Chivalry Today educational program. If you'd like to learn a little bit more about the presentations that we offer for schools, churches, camps, libraries, or if you'd like to learn about our historical sword fighting program where you can come and learn to use swords in just such a manner, please come on up here and grab a flyer from us. If you have any questions about knights and armor or medieval history, please feel free to come on up as well. If you'd like to try on a piece of armor, mosey on over to the House of England courtyard. We have a couple pieces of armor that you can try on. Otherwise, thank you for your attention. It's been a pleasure working with you this afternoon.
Thank you very much, Scott. That was amazing. I don't know how you guys had so much energy. Now, we're going to have the Molina brothers, who've come again to play for us. I don't know how many of you guys have seen these two before, but they are incredible. So they're going to sing a few British songs and mainly the Beatles, I think, which will be a taster for tomorrow's Beatles band that we're having. So again, put your hands together for the Molina brothers. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. We're going to start with the Beatles. A couple Beatles songs and a couple of British bands. The first one was written actually by Smokey Robinson. The Beatles, excellent version.
Seems that I'm always thinking of you. Oh, 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 you treat me badly. I love you madly. You really got
tighter. Tighter. Don't wanna leave you. Don't wanna stay here. Don't wanna spend another day here. Oh, I wanna slip now. I just can't quit now. You really gotta hold on. 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 Well, I love you, and all I want you to do is hold me, please. Hold me, squeeze. Hold me, hold me. You really gotta hold on. You really gotta hold on. You really gotta hold on. You really gotta hold on me. Perfect. Love when that happens. We're going to do another song by the Beatles. I should have known better. Hopefully, our helper here can change it. We were talking the other day about first time we saw the Beatles on the Ed Sullivan Show. And I was 9 years old. And
I was 12.
Yeah, he's my older brother, Stan. I'm Vince. And it changed both of us. We wanted to play music after that. And here we are, 50 years later. Okay, ready? Should have known better with a girl like you, that I would love everything that you do, and I do, and I do. Oh, I never realized what this could be, that this could only happen to me. Can't you see? Can't you see that when I tell you that I love you, oh, you're gonna say you love me too, oh, and when I ask you to be mine, you're gonna say you love me too. So I never realized a lot of things before. If this is love, we gotta give me more. Give me more. Yeah, give me more. So I never realized what a kiss could be. This could only happen to me. Can't you see? Can't you see that when I tell you that I love you, oh, you're gonna say you love me too, oh, and when I ask you to be mine, you're gonna say you love me too. You love me too. You love me too. Thank you. Love to stand.
This we're going to do is a song written by Buck Owens, sung by Ringo, my favorite version. So maybe... That was fast. It looks like he's ready to go. Thank you, Chuck. Let's hear it for Chuck. Chuck is our cousin.
Chuck! Thank you, Chuck!
Like the same guys having a little bit of trouble with the wind. At the end, we're going to play a song by the Animals and then a song by the Who. I was telling my granddaughter, we're going to play a song by the Who. She goes, what? I said, come on, you had to have heard of the Who. You ready? Well, they're gonna put me in the movies. They're gonna make a big star out of me. We'll make a film about a man that's sad and lonely, and all I gotta do is act naturally. Well, I bet you I'm gonna be a big star. Might be in an Oscar, you can never tell. The movie's gonna make me a big star, 'cause I can play the part so well. Well, I hope you come and see me in the movie. Then I know that you will plainly see the biggest fool to ever hit the big time. And all I gotta do is act naturally. We'll make a film about a man that's sad and lonely, begging down upon his bended knee. I'll play the part and I won't need rehearsing, 'cause all I gotta do is act naturally. Well, I bet you I'm gonna be a big star. Might win an Oscar, you can never tell. The movie's gonna make me a big star, 'cause I can play the part so well. Well, I hope you come and see me in the movie. Then I know that you will plainly see the biggest fool to ever hit the big time. And all I gotta do is act naturally. And all I gotta do is act naturally. Woo! Ringo song. Next song I'm gonna do is Only Love.
beside you. It's only love, and that is all. right that you and I should fight. Every night, just the sight of you makes nighttime bright. Very bright, haven't I the right to make it up, girl? It's only love, that is all. Why should I feel the way I do? It's only love, that is all. But it's so hard loving you. Yes, it's so hard loving you, loving you.
Very much. Thank you. We're going to do another Ringo song here. What goes on? What goes on in your heart? What goes on in your mind? You are tearing me apart when you treat me so unkind. What goes on in your mind? The other day I saw you as I walked along the road. But when I saw you with him, I could feel my future fold. It's so easy for a girl like you to lie. Tell me why. What goes on in your heart? What goes on in your mind? You are tearing me apart when you treat me so unkind. What goes on in your mind? Get up in the morning, waiting for the ides of time. Now the tide is turning, I could see that I was blind. It's so easy for a girl like you to lie. Tell me why. What goes on in your heart? What goes on in your mind? You are tearing me apart when you treat me so unkind. What goes on in your mind? I used to think of no one else, that you was just the same. You didn't even think of me as someone with a name. Did you mean to break my heart and think we died? Tell me why. What goes on in your heart? What goes on in your mind? You are tearing me apart when you treat me so unkind. What goes on in your mind? What goes on in your mind? Thank you. This is a song my brother and I have been doing for years. We love this. Two of us. Two of us riding nowhere, spending someone's hard-earned pay. You and me Sunday driving, not arriving on our way back home. We're on our way home. We're on our way home. We're going home. Two of us sending postcards, writing letters on my wall. You and me chasing paper, getting nowhere, on our way back home. We're on our way home. We're on our way home. We're going home. You and I have memories longer than the road that stretches out ahead. Two of us wearing raincoats, standing solo in the sun. You and me chasing paper, getting nowhere, on our way back home. We're on our way home. We're on our way home. We're going home.
I had a lady who asked me
Try not to crowd the stage. This song also covered by the Beatles, but Eric Burden did this the first time I heard it. Many people have done this song. It's called Bring It Home. Bring It On Home to Me. If you ever change your mind about leaving me behind, oh, bring me your sweet loving, bring it on home to me, yeah. I'll bring you money, really too, but that's not all I'll do for you. Oh, bring me your sweet loving, bring it on home to me, yeah. Yeah, yeah, you know I laughed when you left, but it only hurt myself. Oh, bring me your sweet loving, bring it on home to me, yeah, yeah, yeah. Thank you, Vince. Slave, don't get buried in my grave. Oh, bring me your sweet loving, bring it on home to me, yeah, yeah, yeah. If you ever change your mind about leaving me behind, oh, bring me your sweet loving, bring it on home to me, yeah, 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 ooh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Last song is by The Who, called Squeeze Box. Mama's got a squeeze box she wears on her chest.
And when the daddy come home and never gets no rest because you're playing all night, and the music's alright. Well, mama's got her squeeze spots and daddy never sleeps at night. Well, the dog can't sleep and the kids can't eat. Well, there's an escape from the music from the whole damn street where you're playing all night. And the music's alright. Mama's got her squeeze spots and daddy never sleeps at night. It goes in and out and in and out and in and out and in and out, 'cause she's playing all night and the music's alright. Mama's got her squeeze spots and daddy never sleeps at night. Come on and squeeze me, come on and squeeze me, come on and squeeze me like you do. I'm so in love with you. Mama's got her squeeze spots and daddy never sleeps at night. It goes in and out and in and out and in and out and in and out, and the music's alright, and the music's alright. Mama's got her squeeze spots and daddy never sleeps at night. Squeeze me, come on and squeeze me, come on and squeeze me like you do. I'm so in love with you. Mama's got her squeeze spots and daddy never sleeps at night. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening.
He was here. Oh, the hand microphone.
Not this. Like, 1 minute.
Like the email addresses.
Either Carl or Floyd to get him to what Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, you'll see it on YouTube. Yeah. I'm freezing. I guess I'll shut my camera off. I don't know. You introduced me last time. Yeah, I want to film his for us. Yeah. Last night,
Could we please grab the mic?
Oh, he has a radio station, 98.1 Jazz. Oh. He's an announcer.
As many of you already know, Sherlock Holmes was a fictional detective invented in the 19th century by Arthur Conan Doyle, along with his loyal sidekick, Watson. Sherlock Holmes combed the streets of London and the moors of the English countryside in search of elusive criminals. To honour their successes, we now present a brief and we hope amusing account of how world-famous detective Sherlock Holmes began his illustrious career.
We take one? We take them both? Test.
My dear Watson, did I ever describe to you the first case that I ever solved?
Why, Sherlock Holmes, I was there, don't you remember? It was the Study in Scarlet. The criminal revenged his loss.
Oh, Watson, that was the first case to include you, it's true. But not the first one that presented itself to me. I was only a boy at the time. May I proceed?
Yeah.
The case involved a missing bottle of wine. The name of the wine was Screaming Headache.
It's Screaming Headache.
Quite right. My dear father's fate. He always had a glass of it before putting me to bed.
Oh, I see, yes.
One day the bottle disappeared, and my poor father became very upset.
Well, naturally.
I inquired whether anyone else had a copy of the key to the wine cellar. He said there was, the butler.
Well, the butler did it.
No, Watson. The butler kept his own supply of wine in the cellar. Why, I myself often went down and took some of it for use in my own experiments. I then returned it with my own solution of sugar and turpentine. He had no reason to take it.
Well, confound it, Holmes. Who then did take the bottle?
I suspected the governess. She'd been a loyal employee, but had been acting rather strangely. To prove my suspicions, I set a trap by arranging rows of pots and pans on the kitchen floor. Upon our arrival to work in the morning, I began to beat on them as hard as I could using a metal spoon. At first she pretended not to hear me, but then pleaded me to stop banging on account of her having a screaming headache.
Screaming headache?
Indeed. My father, who'd been listening intently on the other side of the door, burst into the room and fired her on the spot. She pleaded and begged with him to stay, but to no avail.
Well done, Sherlock. You certainly put a cork in that case. Poor woman. Did she ever offer an explanation for stealing the wine?
I suppose my natural curiosity and the many years of my endless questions drove the woman to a brink of madness. But Watson, a child's wonder is nothing to whine about.
I suppose not. Oh, I get it, a joke. Nothing to whine about.
Strangely, though, a short time later, a witness reported seeing her, the butler, and my father sharing a bottle of the same wine at a local tavern, swearing my name. I swore then, Watson, that I would take every wrongdoing personally and stop at nothing to catch the guilty culprit. And that is how I became a world-famous detective.
Oh, good show, Sherlock Holmes. Good show indeed.
It was never like anything other. But it has a major claim.
Okay, and to finish off this lovely day, we're going to have Terry singing a few songs for us, cabaret, My Fair Lady, whatever she feels like. Thank you, Terry.
I'd rather be listening than singing. Okay, little bit of cabaret.
Good on ya.
What good is sitting alone in your room? Come hear the music play. Life is a cabaret, old chum. Come to the cabaret. Put down the knitting, the book and the broom, time for a holiday. Life is a cabaret, old chum, come to the cabaret. Come taste the wine, come hear the band, come blow your horn, start celebrating. Right this way, your table's waiting. No use permitting some prophet of doom to wipe every smile away. Life is a cabaret, old chum, come to the cabaret. Now, I used to have a girlfriend known as Elsie, with whom I shared 4 sordid rooms in Chelsea. She wasn't what you call a blushing flower. As a matter of fact, she rented by the hour. The day she died, the neighbors came to snicker. That's what comes from too much pills and liquor. But when I saw her laid out like a queen, she was the happiest corpse that I have ever seen. I think of Elsie to that very day. I remember how she'd turn to me and say, "What good is sitting alone in your room? Come hear the music play. Life is a cabaret, old chum, come to the cabaret. And as for me, yes, as for me, I made my mind up back in Chelsea. When I go, I'm going like Elsie. Start by admitting from cradle to tomb, isn't that long a stay? Life is a cabaret, old chum, only a cabaret, old chum. So come to this cabaret. Didn't get my right keys. And then a couple of songs from My Fair Lady. All I want is a room somewhere far away from the Fete, with one enormous chip. Wouldn't it be lovely? Lots of chocolates for me to eat, lots of coal making, lots of eat. Warm face, warm hands, warm feet, oh, wouldn't it be lovely? Oh, so lovely, sitting up so bloomingly still. I would never budge till spring crept over me windowsill. Someone's head resting on my knee, warm and tender as he can be, who takes good care of me. Oh, wouldn't it be lovely, 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 oh my lovely. I could have danced all night, I could have danced all night, and still have begged for more. I could have spread my wings and done 1,000 things I've never done before. I never know what made it so exciting, while all at once my heart took flight. I only know when he began to dance with me, I could have danced, danced, danced all night. You know, I picked the wrong keys on all of them so far, but that's okay. And I'll end with an old English one, war song. And I'd like all the English people to join in, please. There'll be bluebirds over the white cliffs of Dover tomorrow. Just you wait and see. There'll be love and laughter and peace ever after tomorrow when the world is free. The shepherds will tend their flock, the valleys will swap again, and Jimmy will go to sleep in his own little room again. There'll be love and laughter and peace ever after tomorrow when the world is free. Thank you. All right, Mike, what's next? Here we come. You're gonna boot me off.
Thank you, Terry. That was really amazing. Really nice way to end a really good day. We also want to say thank you to everybody who's taken the time to be here today. We hope to see you all again tomorrow. We want to say thank you to God Save the Cuisine for providing us with amazing meals. The Shakespeare Corner Shop for providing us with scones.
Cotton cream. There'll be plenty more tomorrow too.
The Molina brothers, you guys were fabulous. Again, thank you.
Good friends. Don't forget to go get your green screen pictures. I think they've taken it down, but they'll be available on our Facebook page, House of England.
Thank you, Paul and Jen, for sorting that out. That was fabulous. Thank you for Eileen and Tom, also known as Roy, and Dottie, and everybody, actually everyone who helped put this together. If you don't mind standing up, we'd like to give you a round of applause.
And particularly Fran, who really does almost everything at the House of England.
Yeah.
She's been there every day this week because we had to be open for a couple of hours. So thanks, Fran! Yay!
That's enough thank yous for today, because there's plenty to come for tomorrow, where people such as Rich has worked with the San Diego Costume Guild to put together an amazing fashion show. You can't miss that. It's going to be incredible. And Sarah again has arranged for God Save the Cuisine to come again tomorrow. So if you did not get their burgers or their fish and chips,
burgers with real English cheese.
Yeah, that makes a big difference.
Yeah.
If you haven't tried that, you have another opportunity to do that tomorrow. They've also got merchandise, t-shirts, caps, photographs with their soldier person over there. Anyway, thank you everybody, and enjoy the rest of your day, and hopefully see you tomorrow.
Okay.
My name is Stephen J. Waller, and I'm going to give an example of auditory illusions at archaeology sites. And I have here a volunteer who's going to experience auditory illusion for the first time. So before we begin, I need to test your hearing. Okay? So close your eyes and tell me if you can hear this tuning fork. Okay. Now keep your eyes closed and count out loud how many times you think I'm passing my hand between your ear and the tuning fork. In other words, it's how many times you hear the sound being blocked. Okay, ready? Count out loud.
2, 3, 4, 5.
Okay, like 7 times. Okay, now let's do it with your eyes open.
Okay.
Well, keep facing the same direction.
Okay.
Do the same thing.
2,
But see, it's not really my hand passing between
No, I
your
see your
ear.
hand right there.
What you are experiencing is an auditory illusion based on an interference pattern.
Oh my God.
We have the two tines of the tuning fork acting as two different sound sources. You can stay here. But one of the tines is putting out a sound wave, which is high and low pressure of waves. And the other tine is also putting out the same frequency. So at certain points, the sound waves will cancel each other out. The high pressure from one will correspond to the low pressure of the other, and it'll cancel each other out. It's destructive interference. And it gives an interference pattern. You kind of have to squint a little bit to see the rays coming out of here. So all I was doing was rotating.
Oh, you're rotating it.
Right. So that you could hear the loud and soft, where it was alternating between the constructive interference and the destructive interference. But, so now picture it on a large scale, out in an open field. I had two pipers playing the exact same note, just like the tuning fork, and it was setting up an interference pattern on a large scale. And as people would walk around it, they would get the illusion that there were these massive objects in a ring blocking the sound. This is what one art student did in response to an interference pattern as she walked around it. Even though there was nothing in the field except two pipers, she imagined it being a ring of rocks that were blocking the sound, when in reality it was just the sound waves canceling each other out.
Were the pipers like moving around?
No, the pipers were still, and in this case the pipers were still and the person moved.
Oh,
in this demonstration you were still and I moved the
okay.
tuning
Same
fork.
difference though.
Same thing,
Got it.
same net
Got it.
effect. But I think that that's what was happening in the past, is that people were dancing around these pipers and hearing the places where there was sound wave cancellation and interpreting it as something blocking the sound. A ring of magic, invisible rocks blocking the sound. And that's exactly what Stonehenge is like. It's a ring of rocks. Stonehenge is actually one of about 1,000 stone circles in the British Isles. And there had to be a good reason for why our ancestors were building these circles of rocks. Nobody really knows why, but it's very interesting that the region of the British Isles is also the region where there's a bagpipe tradition of being able to sustain a note. So what's also interesting is that a lot of these rings of rocks are called piper's stones. And there's actually a legend that two pipers led these maidens to dance in a circle and they all turned to stone. So there's actually a tradition that links pipers to stone rings. And that's all you need is two pipers in a field, you dance in a circle, you get the illusion that it's acoustic shadows cast by a ring of rock.
So they were sort of constructing the ring of stone to sort of recreate the experience of the pipers.
I believe so, because since they didn't know about sound waves canceling each other out, it would have been a completely mysterious, magical phenomena that they couldn't explain. So it would have been like almost like the supernatural visitation of, hey, you're playing two pipes and all of a sudden this magic ring of rocks appears, so it would have been supernatural. So also what I've done as a second set of experiments, the first one being in an empty field, I actually went to the real Stonehenge and I had a sound source in the middle, and then I walked around the outside. Of course now most of it's in ruins, but I walked around the part where it's still like there. And of course when you pass by the stone, it's going to be muffled, and when you pass by the opening, it lets the sound through. So you get that same net effect of loud and soft that you do for an interference pattern.
So the stones themselves actually recreate the effect of the pipers canceling themselves out.
Exactly. Yeah. In fact, if you were blindfolded, you wouldn't know whether you were walking around a stone circle or an interference pattern like these people. You know, so And it makes sense because if they thought that this kind of structure was causing the interference pattern and they built it, now it recreates the interference pattern by radiating acoustic shadows.
But, okay, I'm sorry. We talked about this a little earlier, but you actually said that Stonehenge it is kind of an observatory too. It does have some.
Right. My theory doesn't necessarily conflict with other theories about like the solar alignments and everything. For example, the pipers could have been aligned with the sun, or if you thought that there was a ring of magic invisible rocks, maybe at certain times of the year, like sunset on the solstice, you would try to use the sun as backlighting to see if you could see the invisible rocks. That's just one speculation for why there also might be a solar alignment. But my personal opinion is to get a solar alignment, you don't need a ring of huge megaliths, 30 megaliths. But, it still could be related. But I think that the design of Stonehenge and these stone circles was inspired by the auditory illusion of magic rocks from an interference pattern.
Well, I'm sorry, I have to agree. That totally makes sense.
Oh, thanks. So what I'm doing now is trying to advocate preserving the soundscapes of archaeological sites. It's a whole new field called archaeoacoustics. Thank you.
Wow, that is so cool. I totally agree with you. Don't you? I mean, that's just what's your name? Steve.
Steven.
I'm Mike. Yeah, I saw you at the meeting. Yeah, that's very cool.
Yeah. So I've been like giving talks, and I have a web page. Just if you want to see my web page, it's just Google the term rock art acoustics, and you'll find it.
So did you go to that lecture? Were they having a lecture coming up on rock art?
Oh yeah, I was there. I gave it.
Oh, you
gave it?
Yeah.
Well, there was the main speaker, and I also gave a talk.